Greetings from downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. Today is Friday, September 5th, 2025 at 4:51 p.m. Mountain Time. It is 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Nice start to this September. Not as hot as it's been. Right now we're starting at City Creek Center, one of the big shopping areas in downtown Salt Lake. You can see the food court over here to our left. Beyond there is Cheesecake Factory, and then over there there's the actual shopping mall itself, which during the nice times of the year it's open air. I believe it's open till 8 o'clock p.m. every day, as are a lot of these places. We've got some other stores you're peeking at here. Red Balloon Toy Store, French Pastry Shop. We're going to come back and circle around to much of City Creek Center. I just kind of wanted to start here. Unfortunately, the creek that is usually running as a steady stream is just stagnant right now. It's not operational, because I was going to point out, which I've done in videos before in downtown Salt Lake, how the creek that runs through City Creek Center is meant to simulate the natural creek that used to occur back when the Mormon settlers came to this area. So usually they have a nice little waterfall stream coming down here, and it goes throughout the whole City Creek Center. You'll probably see the standing water later on as we go through the actual mall portion, but just note that it's usually much nicer when you get to this area to see the running stream. It just happens not to be running right now. We got Macy's right here. There's several, at least 4 entrances that I know to Macy's, and it's a 2-story mall. Can't remember if I mentioned that. There's also some other chain restaurants up there in the second level, like Johnny Rockets, Neater's, Costa Vida. By the way, my apologies for my camera that makes the weird vibration noises or jitters sometimes. Just something that I have to get working. Now, it does look like the stream's working on this part, so I'm not sure why it's not going down the actual hill, but this is what it normally would be like, and you can see it further down there. There's also some cool City Creek blocks that are here. They tell you a little bit of various histories, like the wetlands, rediscovering City Creek, some animal related things, vegetation, urbanizing the creek, the valley. It's always fun to see some history, the canyons, putting the creek to work. Oh, this is interesting. I see this is in downtown Salt Lake, and I always wonder exactly what it is, but it says Eagle Gate led to the mills in City Creek Canyon. Interesting. So when we see, I think we might come across that in this video. Maybe that'll give some context as to what that is. And that's usually the start of the simulated creek at City Creek Center, and it goes all the way throughout the whole shopping area. Alright, so on this side you have Temple Square, and we'll get to that in a second. Our idea is going to be to peek a little bit at Temple Square today, check out City Creek Center for sure. I'm going to see if I end up going down by the Delta Center or Gateway, which is the opposite direction from where I'm going right now. The only reason I say it's a nice area to look at for downtown Salt Lake City, but it's also a bit of a walk to get to the Gateway, and then you kind of got to walk all the way back. So we'll see if we end up doing that. So right there is what appears to be that archway that led to City, the original Creek Canyon that we were looking at. So if that's indeed what it represents, it's a pretty cool bit of trivia. And I know last year I had looked up some information about these two buildings. There's definitely a lot of historical context with them. I think one of them used to be like one of the original, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was that building, the original like Salt Lake City libraries. And in this one here, which it might still be, I think it was like a men's club back in the day, especially for like the miners and stuff. So since we got the traffic light here, I guess we can go ahead and cross South Temple. You see a lot of construction happening here. Temple Square, when I first saw it in 2018, was not under any construction, so the whole thing I was able to go through it and enjoy it. Then the following year in 2019, they started doing construction on various parts of it, and it's just been an ongoing project since then, with the main building they're working on being the actual big temple. That one's taken the longest. A lot of the rest of the buildings they've been kind of rehabbing and doing slower construction with in segments, such as these ones over here. But the temple is the main piece, but they're finally hoping to have the entire project completed in 2027. Specifically, they should be doing an open house, because usually the temple is sacred grounds. You have to be a member of the Mormon church in order to enter it. But whenever they do a new building, meaning build a new temple, or if they renovated one, they do a dedication. But prior to doing a dedication, that's the only time when the general public is allowed to come. So they're supposed to be doing open tours, I think, from like April 2027 to October 2027. But I'm sure it's going to be a big list, because out of all the temples, this is like the temple, for the LDS church. Some of the areas they have renovated include this spot. I showcase this around the Christmas time. They always do a nice job decorating for Christmas. They used to have a fountain here prior to the renovations. But one nice thing that they've done is they've now included many country flags. So when you come here, you see all the country flags that are out and about. I like how they've, do the landscaping. That's always been a staple of the grounds. They, take real good care of them. So even if you're, like, I'm not a member of the Mormon church, I'm not LDS, but I think it's very cool to go through and, see a little bit of history, look at the grounds. This is the office building. They used to, way back when, allow you to go to the very top floor and see. It was like the highest point you could get to in downtown Salt Lake. So you would, within the downtown area, you would get to see an observation deck and look over the rest of the city. But I haven't seen that on their website for years, so I assume they don't do that anymore. That's not to say, like, I'm sure if you remember, they probably have something where you could go up there and look, because it's not like they got rid of the observation area. Some example of more of the grounds. They have a lot of small seating areas, more plants and landscaping, various, dedications. It's been a little bit of time since I've actually got to do a summertime dedicated video, just casually going through downtown Salt Lake. I did a live stream, I think a couple of years ago, and I kept saying to myself, when the weather gets nicer, I'm going to do a higher quality video to showcase everything. Sometimes it's just been tough to find the time to venture out. but I knew I had this evening open. And one of the other things too is whenever I did the video, I preferred to do it on either a Friday or Saturday evening, because it's always nicer to do these videos when there's more people out and about. Sometimes I do videos like on a Tuesday evening somewhere, and not many people go out on Tuesday evening, so the area will look Deadsville. So then a lot of people who watch the video will say, hey, why is it so dead there? And it sort of gives the wrong impression. So the building ahead of us is the temple that they've really been doing the most work on stabilizing. And I think one of the big things they've been doing is, like, this whole project in all the years is supposed to make sure that the foundation is like completely earthquake proof if a disaster ever comes. Because there have been various buildings that in the Salt Lake area that the integrity of them has been shot due to earthquakes. In fact, there's one building somewhere over there, I don't know if they've torn it down yet, but they were planning to tear it down because they just deemed it unstable from an earthquake that happened years ago. Here's one of the new features that they installed during all this construction, which is the very peaceful body of water here. Unfortunately, until they finish like the construction on the temple, it's not the most picturesque thing, because you see the pool, but then you see all the construction in the background. But it's still just something like very soothing about it. You probably get a better glimpse if you're looking at it from behind, or even I haven't taken this perspective before. You could probably look at it from the back end, and then now you can see why it looks more pleasant. So there's no fountain that shoots up in the air, but it just, especially when you get some nice reflections at certain points of the day, it ends up being very pretty. In the background there, we're not going to get up to today, but you can see the capital of Utah. And then there's some more temple buildings that are along that way. You can look through these windows. They've had these up since they started the construction pretty much, if you ever want to peek through and see the latest things going on. I know from all my time in Cleveland how it was interesting to peek at the Sherwin-Williams building construction over the past few years. So I always have a appreciation when they take that little extra step to allow the public to get a glimpse at what might be going on. So usually I'm used to walking through there. It looks like they have that kind of blocked off now. I don't recall seeing this. This looks like a new area where you can have some more seating. But for now, looks like we can still exit over here. And give me 1 second, my shoe has come untied, so let me go ahead and do that. Alright, all tied up now. My Cleveland Brown shoes, getting ready for the start of the NFL season. Well, it's technically started yesterday with the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, beating the Cowboys, but Brown's first game is this Sunday. So this down here is Main Street. Hopefully we're to get a look at that later. But Main Street had an unfortunate fire. I have to see exactly where it is, but it took out several businesses, and they're trying to come together to help rehab those. One thing that's really cool, I love about Salt Lake, if you're trying to park, so you see where that car just came out from that underground structure? Well, on the opposite end of that, a little bit further down, there's like an entryway, and there's probably like 4 or 5 of those type of entrances as you go through downtown Salt Lake City. I parked at one that was about a street down and a little bit over, and it's a big underground parking lot. The first 2 hours that you park there any day of the week are free, and then after that I think it's like $2 per hour. And there's some restaurants that you go to, like if you end up eating at Cheesecake Factory, I think they will validate your parking in the event you were there longer. Some other businesses might validate your parking too, but overall it's just a very affordable way to park downtown. I'm not sure if they do this for all special events, but I do know, like when I went to a Utah Jazz versus Cleveland Cavaliers game last year, and that building is all the way down there. When I say last year, actually, I think it was this year, just earlier in the year, but last season. We ended up parking here. It was $2. I think by the end of it, because the first 2 hours are free, and then after that you have to pay. So we ended up paying like $2 to $4 for parking. But how many cities, besides paying the tickets of the sporting event, you have to pay the extreme parking fares? That's always been nice. You see more construction of the Salt Lake Temple. I'm curious to see, because they've rebuilt this building. They used to have two visitor centers, one on this end and one on the other end. I know this is a newer structure, so I'm wondering if they're gonna make that another visitor center again. There used to be a really cool spiral feature, and it looks like there's a statue inside there that I can peek at from the outside. Here's one of the featured entries to City Creek Center, and we're gonna have to cross the street again. This is, I think, the building that I was referring to. In between this and that was the one I think had the integrity issues due to the former earthquake, and they were going to be tearing it down. It's not really going to impact City Creek Center. Here's that cool fountain shot that you always get if you're shopping here. And in the background there is a fountain that plays to music and does nice shows. Oh, we got the crosswalk signaled for us here. Oh, they did tear it down already. Okay. I'm not sure what the future holds for that, if they're going to build, because before you couldn't see through at all to Nordstrom. You'd have to walk. Actually, you could see through if you were by that spot right there, where there's like a staircase and some birds, but like from here, you couldn't see because there was a building that was at least, I'd say, as tall as that one right there next to it on the left. Yeah, so I don't know what the future plans, if they're going to rebuild something there, or if they're just kind of leave it as an open spot. Some more of the Temple Square grounds. And then behind that, which we're not getting to right now, I showed it at Christmas time though, is the Tabernacle. They have the music. One difference that just made the headlines the other day is right here, the Salt Lake Plaza Hotel. So it's on Temple Square grounds too, I believe, because right there you've got the Family Search building that's part of the Temple Square, and behind it might be like a children's related building. I forget the exact name of it. But in the headlines a week or so ago, it said that they're planning on tearing this building down and they're going to turn it into parking for Temple Square. which I know in places, a lot of places, putting a new parking lot up, especially in the downtown area, is being frowned upon. Downtown Cleveland's trying to do a good job about that. They've taken a lot of their old lots, including where the Sherwin-Williams headquarters is being built right now, and have turned them into either parks or headquarters, office buildings. I'm not sure if they're going to make this into a flat parking lot or an actual garage. So right now we are going to end up making the journey down to the gateway, and then later on I'm not sure if I'll film it, I'll see, but I'm going to come all the way back, and then that's when we'll jump into City Creek Center. Also, I have to, when I'm outside, especially in the sun like this, I have to be cognizant of the heat getting to the camera. Sometimes the camera will shut down due to overheating. I think these are some of the popular parking lots utilized when there's events at the Delta Center, home of the Utah Jazz, and presently the home of the Utah Hockey Club as well. Although I'm pretty sure, what was the new name they came up with that? Last year it was called the Utah Hockey Club, but they did come up with a name. Let me try to Google that real quick. During the off season they voted for it. The Utah Mammoth. I don't know if they have the signage updated outside of the arena yet. Thing you see passing us is one of the green Trax lines. It's actually free to ride within the downtown Salt Lake City area, as are the red and blue lines. So if you just look at a map online, you can see where the exact borders of that are. But that's pretty nice, because if you park somewhere downtown, and I might utilize that today too, because I parked under City Creek Center. But let's say I end up walking over here hypothetically, and I'm thinking to myself, well, geez, I don't want to walk all the way back to the car. I could just wait for one of those trains. Here's one of the blue lines coming. Hop on it, and then you don't even have to pay for it if you're being transported within the downtown area. The lines do run much further than that. Like the red Trax line ends up going, depending on which way, either to the University of Utah Health, or I'm going to go ahead and cross the other way. either the University of Utah Health or it goes to Daybreak, Utah, where I just did a video the other day. That's like the final stop on the southern or western end. The green tracks line, I know it starts off at the airport, Salt Lake City Airport, because anytime I fly in, that's the first one I take from the airport is the green tracks line, and it does drop you off to downtown. I just don't recall exactly how far or where it goes after downtown, if it does at all. And I know the blue line ventures off to its own area. So this is the intersection of 300 West and South Temple. You got Fidelity Investments on the corner here. And then across from us, there's the Delta Center. Like I was mentioning earlier, you've got the cool big logos that you can use for photo opportunities in front, but they still haven't updated the Utah Hockey Club to be the Utah Mammoth. They do have the Mammoth logo up on the actual building itself, just not the bigger one out front. And of course there's some other shows that they host at the Delta Center, including some wrestling events. I believe WWE SmackDown is going to be here on Halloween night, and the following night they're keeping it here to host an edition of Saturday night's main event. Because for a while there, I think WWE was not going to Salt Lake for any of their shows, or at least the ones that appeared on TV. We're going to go ahead and cross back over. Yeah, several spots you can see with construction going on here in the downtown area that makes you weave in and go back and forth between sides of the street. There's what I always assume to be the main broadcasting building of KSL with the satellite dish on top. Even the Delta Center on this end has some construction going on. So this end of Salt Lake, I would say a lot of times, unless there's something specific going on the gateway, you're not going to see nowhere near the amount of traffic as you would by the City Creek Center area or parts of Main Street where some of the bars are later in the evening. And this building on the outside is the old Union Pacific Railroad. You also have right here the depot where there's various, I think it's a combination of musical shows, performances, and sometimes comedy events that take place. over on our right, you see one of the many green bike stations that are in downtown Salt Lake City. I haven't checked their rates lately, but they should still be quite affordable. Based on that station I see there, though, they used to have it where you could pay at the station. Now I think they're probably fully on the app, encouraging everyone to utilize that. So let's take the back side of the gateway here. Nice to see these little water features up and going. Last year they were still doing a big construction project down over here to the left. I want to see if that's completed. It looks like it is. I think they were redoing this whole building right here. I don't know if it was housing or office space. Here's the gateway. So I'm going to go out a little bit further so you can get better perspective and we're not right on top of stuff. This looks like a new business here on the right if I'm not mistaken. Otherwise, maybe they've just redone the outside. Dreamscapes. So there are two levels to this. And cars can technically drive through this portion, but they often do not. Or if they do, it's very slow go. So a lot of times you'll see like little movies being hosted here, little musical performances. Yeah, based on that, it looks like it's probably housing that they built or rehabbed on top of the gateway. You got the fountain area there. This spot here is, they've got some statues paying homage to when the Salt Lake City hosted the 2002 Olympics for the winter time. This is also a popular area for them to do things like little farmers markets, or in a previous year I was here around Halloween time. They had, I mean, there were some tables, but they also had like giant pumpkins that were grown and other festive features. I forgot what they may have called the event. Throughout Salt Lake City in the downtown area, you also have a lot of embedded artwork. Sometimes you have to like pay attention to find it. Those staircases, for example, over there have artwork painted on them. The outside of this has got like a mountain look to it. Even when you're going underneath this bridge here, you've got some artwork. If you're curious, a few years ago I did do a video showcasing like murals that were throughout the city, and I think I was providing some background or context to them as much as I could provide. You can see on the second level too some more various murals. Right here is the Discovery Gateway Museum, Children's Museum, Monday 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesday closed, and then the rest of the day is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is somewhere where my wife is saying, oh, we got to bring our baby, Sophia. So it's getting close to the right age for her to be able to enjoy that. It looks like they have not replaced what used to be a Donovan Mitchell mural over there. Of course, he was traded from the Salt Lake City, or sorry, from the Utah Jazz to the Cleveland Cavaliers years ago. Over here on this end, you've got the planetarium, science type museum, and then this would be the end of where the Delta Center is. Oh, interesting. They've got a Museum of Illusions here too. They put one of these up in downtown Cleveland within the past year. I didn't realize they were this big of a national presence. Maybe they're trying to get in all the big cities. On the second level, there's Dave and Buster's, Urban Arts Gallery over there. I've always thought for years like that the Gateway definitely has like the infrastructure, you know what I mean, for more flourishing businesses, but I just don't know if it would have that consistent traffic. Like, is there enough room for a second little shopping mall in the downtown area when, you know, City Creek can fulfill a different market, got more of the high-end shopping. Some more of the artwork features that I was mentioning earlier. Old school candy over there, jewelers. Yeah, I haven't been down by, like, usually I stop at the planetarium. I haven't been down this way for a bit, but I know it's typically pretty colorful here. So it's nice to see some of the businesses here. They've got one national chain down there, Panda Express, and then another Costa Vida over here. I've seen before too, where sometimes they'll have little musical performance here. Someone will be playing music. There's a little patio. I don't know if they still have them, but they used to have the little misters. By misters, I mean like mist of water that come down. This also looks like some public restrooms, although it says for customers only. Sweet rolled tacos. Oh, we got a line for Wise Guys Comedy Club. One day I'll probably see a show down this way. And another one of the murals that have stood the test of time with the musicians. Alright, let me check my Google map first. Maybe I can end up covering part of Main Street if I go that way. I just gotta check it out. Again, there's the Delta Center. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is head a little bit further south. So this is 200 south. First I'm gonna go across 400 west. And then I'll go, I think that fire that happened on Main Street is at 300 south, so I'll be able to go a little bit further that way once I get toward Main Street and check out the aftermath of that. One big note or bit of information I can pass along to if you're visiting Salt Lake City. You know, much like any cities, you're going to experience pockets of, you know, homeless crowds. But if you're headed maybe, you know, a little bit south of the Gateway in this area, that's one of the, what I would call biggest homeless spots, homeless encampments that you're going to find. Also down a little bit down that way, if you keep on going, where the downtown Salt Lake City Library and County building is, you're going to see some groups of homeless. And again, I always say this with homeless, the majority of them are perfectly harmless. They mind their own business. But I still, you know, as I document things throughout a city, I try to point out where those are, because a lot of times visitors are a little apprehensive of certain areas. So I try to give like a heads up. And you do always need to be cautious. There was one time I was riding a bicycle, and it was at least like probably 5 or 6 blocks down further south. I was riding a bicycle coming from, you know, imagine behind me, and I was going toward more of the inner part of the city. And as I was riding my bike, I swear there was this guy crouched on the ground a little bit to the left with a big machete in his hand, just like staring at me. So I quickly zipped by, and I even checked the footage later on, and you can definitely see he's holding something that's in the shape of that, but he was also in the shadows, so the camera footage, you know, made that very dark. But that's what I'm pretty sure I saw with my naked eye. And it's tough to capture everything in a downtown area, especially like I have a decent familiarity with downtown Salt Lake City, but it's not like downtown Cleveland where I could go down any road and spot like, oh yeah, that's different from the past. I can do that with Cleveland. Salt Lake City, I can do it with some things, but I also don't have like a map in my head on what's on every turn of the corner. Like I know in general, as you get toward Main Street and a little bit further south, there's a pocket of popular bars, and there's going to be like a boatload of stuff that I'm not covering in this video. The point of this is to try to give you a nice walkthrough on a summer day in downtown Salt Lake. And we'll probably try to come back. I wanted to at least do one general video. There'll probably be certain days where I plan it out more and focus on a specific part of downtown. Like maybe I'll not show the popular City Creek areas, but maybe some of Main Street going further south and some of those other bar options. I'm not sure what that is over there. There's like a big tent set up, and people, it seems like they're dancing in it. They do have like a road closure sign as well. So maybe some type of pop-up event. You also have, of course, buses that go throughout the Salt Lake City area. So if you're trying to venture further out, you can do that as well. I'm trying to think. The buses themselves, I still have to look this up, so don't quote me on it, but the buses themselves might also be free if you're within that downtown area. But if I'm right on that, I've always wondered how it works. Like, also with the other buses too, how does it work when you board, and then if someone tries to like stay on, as the bus driver, you got to remember, like, hey, like, what are you doing here? Over there you've got some, looks like Nacho Daddy margaritas. Also a big parking lot here that can be used for events. And maybe also the conference center. Up ahead is the back end of the conference center, which I presented a workshop at in 2018. I'm actually presenting, every year since then I've also been presenting, but it's been 2-hour presentations. But I'm going back to do a workshop this coming year for work. That one will be hosted in Orlando, which will also be the first repeat city. Although that was back in 2019 that it was in Orlando, and I did video for my personal use of my adventures, but I didn't have the Poco Traveler channel at the time. So that'll be kind of interesting when I shoot that city, because I definitely have like an idea, like everything I did would be worthy of making for some nice videos, including a bike riding adventure, going between the Disney properties, a little bit of downtown Orlando. But it's like, okay, when I go there just for my own personal enjoyment, do I want to redo everything I did in 2019, or do I want to try to like experience some different adventures? When I stayed in my hotel, it was about 3 or 4 blocks down from here. There was one of those green bike stations right in front of the hotel, and they had these nice dedicated bike lanes on this road. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cross this way, because if I want to get to 300 South, that'll help me be ahead anyway. And there's shade on this side of the street, so I'll give my camera a little break from the sun. They've had the Hyatt Regency Hotel up there for a few years now, but that is relatively new, because that was not there when I presented in 2018. So as we start getting back into the inner city, hopefully you can see what I was referring to, and it's going to be a little bit later in the day. We're after, see what time it is now. I know it's after 5 o'clock. It's 5:42. Yeah, closer to evening time. So you're going to see more people out and about. So this is 200 South and West Temple. I don't know if you can make it out, but down there is Nordstrom, where we pointed that out earlier just to give you some context. So City Creek Center is between 200 South and I'm not sure if that's 100 South on the next walk. I was just about to say, from my couple of times in Salt Lake, there are a decent amount of people who utilize the scooters. So you do have to keep your head on a swivel, so to speak. Thrift Hood, it looks like a local clothing store. Red Door, I assume for like martinis, based on the little logo on the outside.
It's one or the other.
I'm not sure if this is new, but like I feel like it's a little different when I see these like dedicated bus stops that are away from the curb and you can have the bicycles go behind it. I just don't remember that feature. But now we are at Main Street. Again, you can see the green line passing by. The City Creek Center is a little bit further that way. We're going to make a right-hand turn here and see if we can catch those businesses that had the misfortune of catching fire. Now, I don't know what this is. You've got a lot of people just like standing or sitting in a line. Now there's another thing that says general admission over there, so there must be some type of event going on. And they've updated the banner for the Gallivan Center. I know that is the Gallivan Center in general. Like during winter time, there's an ice skating rink. Right now it looks like there's some series of food trucks. But yeah, I don't know the specific event going on there today. That's another one of the public spaces though in downtown Salt Lake. So let's see here. 300 South is what we're looking for to see those businesses. I wonder if this, I'm going to make a quick deviation. There used to be a very cool book mural somewhere along Main Street, and I feel like this is where it's hidden. Of course, the one time I did a video down this way, some wanderer just like wandered through as I was checking it out. Oh yeah, there it is. It's a little bit worn down, but if you're ever interested in, you know, public art throughout the city, you've got a book mural over there. You can see some of the things like Animal Farm, Grapes of Wrath, the giant Joshua. So So Main Street typically has a good mixture of local food, dining options, some shops. You still got the Keys on Main in operation. I'm going to assume, based on the look of the outside of this, maybe this is where the fire may have happened and the damages. I don't know, this doesn't... I'm gonna have to check the pictures again because I swear it was some pieces were in rubble. Go ahead and pause the video for a second and check out the map. Okay, so even though these places are abandoned, this is not the location of the fire. The fire, should have done more digging ahead of time, but I thought I would just be able to spot it, and that was the first thing that looked kind of, but you know, I suspected it, right? I was like, wait a minute, these places don't look like the pieces of rubble I saw in the pictures. You got a market there, little pizza and pasta place here, but it's on that side of the street, and it makes more sense because they also have the fences up, so you can't quite walk up right to the buildings. So it's still 300 South, but a little bit further south on 300 South. Let's see if we can cross here before the light changes. Still pays to have your youth when you're able to walk fast at some of these intersections, which I'm grateful for. Alright, so over there is where we're going to see the damages. So this place here says available. I'm going to assume that was available from the get-go. I wonder if this little place here, Cheers to You, is still open. Yeah, it says Cheers is open, so that must have been unscathed enough, but you can see the damage where the fences are. Los Torpedoes, London Bell. So a series of, I think it was really like a series of restaurants that got hit. Whiskey Street Cocktails and Dining. I know I've been by this area before, and it seemed like at least one of the places, probably multiple of them, were quite popular. You also have the Utah Book and Magazine shop, which I'm not sure if that's available, and then the ones further south were able to escape it. So yeah, I think this one's had some nice decorations during the holiday season that I pointed out. So unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see what the plan is. They're trying to put together funds so that the businesses can rehab and reopen. But, you know, you think of all the workers of those places suddenly displaced through no fault of their own. So now I'm going to try to make my way back up to City Creek Center, and that way it'll kind of work out that it's probably the last thing we'll cover in today's video. Try to see if we can get a glimpse of what might be going on here besides the food trucks. My guess is there's got to be, especially with the younger looking crowd, a little musical performance going on. General admission. This is always good for the potential thumbnail too, when you can show a big crowd. Make the city, showcase its activeness. And that line extends even way down there. I wasn't going to look it up originally, but now I feel like I have to. Check out Gallivan Center events today. Gallivan Center today. No public events today. So what is... It's got to be something. Oh, maybe the Twilight concert series in 2025 by the Salt Lake City Arts Council. Let's see if they have a date for September. Friday, September 5th, 6 p.m. Japanese breakfast, ginger root and tomper. So that appears to be what's going on there. Interesting to know. You can see it's definitely a popular event. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe to Poco Traveler. Down that alleyway, I know there's a small, road with a few restaurants that sort of curved away from traffic, or curbed away from traffic. Over here on the right, you've got the Eccles Theater. Probably what I would call the most popular theater or performance hall in the downtown area. Some pretty neat, colorful artwork right now on the windows. Storytelling, the breath of life. I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of those type of mythology and poetry symbolisms. I always remember this fact, that little clock over there, one of the oldest artifacts in its original form in the downtown Salt Lake City area. Now we're back up to 100 South. Here's another one of those parking entry and exits. So this would have been the one I went to, except I came in on the other end, going inward up the hill, or down the hill instead of exiting, but later on I'll come out that way. Alright, so what I think I'm going to do, I'm at like the middle of City Creek Center right now. Because, you know, where you see the interlink is the midpoint. I'm going to go in on the lower level on this side of the street, go toward the left, go to the end there. And then when I come back, I'll take the second level so you can see the view from up there down Main Street. And we'll look at all the shops that are in the mall.
Still open?
Even though it's been a while since I've done a summertime downtown Salt Lake City video, I have made a habit of the past couple of years doing the Christmas time video. So if you've watched those, you would have seen me gone through or go through City Creek Center, and like I often will show at Macy's over there in the windows, they'll have candy window displays. This is that simulated creek I was talking about, but it runs throughout the whole stretch of City Creek Center.
Started writing a sociology.
But it's open air right now. During when it gets cold or winter time, they just close the roof. It's like a big sunroof that closes it. I mean, you can still see through, but it prevents the rain or snow from getting in and keeps the air conditioning on. It is pretty unique too, how like you can definitely feel like you're in air conditioning right now, even though you're still outdoors. This stretch of the mall, as you can see on the left, there are several like opening soon things. You got the Apple store over there, though. This is the one stretch where it's like, okay, it's still in development. As we go through the second floor and the other end of the mall, you'll see pretty much full occupancy, I think. Yeah. Probably not. They run like an actual fountain show every so often. Probably not going to catch it right now, other than the occasional streams shooting up. That in the past has been a splash pad too, but it doesn't seem to be running right now. Earlier when I showed the view coming this way from the fountains, that's where I would have been standing. Then over here you've got the Louis Vuitton. And then we're going to take the escalator here to get up to the second level. You got Tiffany and Company on the right. One of the entrances to the second level of Nordstrom here. This is always a fond walking area, especially right here, because the first date I went on with my now wife took place, part of the date took place walking through this area. It was in the evening time. Here's Lululemon, although I'm sure, I don't know how much this ever impacts the actual workers in terms of their mentality, but like Lululemon stock, for example, in the stock market just had a poor earnings report, so their stock plummeted like 18% in one day. How much do the actual workers feel the impact of that? I don't know. But you can see when you're walking on the second level here, more or no vacancies. Vieura, H&M, Anthropology. And right now I would say like It's even not so crowded right now. You're probably going to get like a lot busier on anytime you come on a Saturday, or if it's a little bit later Friday evening. Well, like I said, I think they're only open till 8 o'clock p.m. and it is 6, so I thought you'd see a little bit more people. It must be Saturdays when I've come in the past when it's really popping. Meaning you'd probably see like triple the amount of people than I see right now walking around. It is not open on Sundays. I've read before that one of the reasons for that is this is owned by or run by the Mormon Church. So, on Sundays they believe in, shuttering everything. So here's one of your views down Main Street. We're in that interlink we pointed out earlier that connects both sides of the mall. You also have a map of Salt Lake City on the ground here, showing the various avenues. And then I know my reflection's in there right now, but you can see further up the hills and part of Temple Square going that way. And then throughout the building they have a lot of these historical notes if you want to learn more about the city. And then on this half of the mall, it's predominantly like a lot of clothing and attire related shops, so Garage, Journeys, Earthbound. Earlier we did see on the outside there's that one toy store, and also on the first level there, the name's escaping me, I'm sure we'll see it in a second, but it's that, Rocket Fizz candy shop. So if you might be thinking to yourself, okay, well, where's all the food options? They predominantly have that centered in the food court. We'll go ahead and take the escalators down. You recall this is where I started the video. There's Cheesecake Factory over there. Cafe Rio Mexican Grill. I'm trying to think, I feel like there might be a Chick-fil-A. No, the Chick-fil-A's in the mall itself. I was trying to remember, there's some restaurant that's just around the corner. I can't recall exactly what that is. I pointed out earlier there's a Johnny Rockets up top. That's actually the place my wife and I went for that first day. We weren't planning on going there. We just let's pick a quick spot to grab something. And let's cap things off with a little peek at the food court area here. So over there's a Subway if you want to get your Subway sandwiches, Roxbury for your drinks or I think smoothies. Oh, there's a Shake Shack now. Did they get rid of Sbarro? That's a change since I was here last. I tried to Sbarro the one time I was here and I was like, oh no. So it looks like they kept Sbarro. I swear Sbarro used to be right here. It looks like Shake Shack has moved in there. You got Chick-fil-A over there. The difference is Sbarro is now one stop further down. Then you've got Zimbu, Himalayan Cuisine, Taste of Red Iguana. There's a Red Iguana restaurant that's more popular, the actual main place, just outside of downtown Salt Lake City. You got McDonald's, Popeyes. Jiva's, Great Steak, Osaka, Japan. On the second level, there's Mr. Mac. Is that a food place? No, I don't think it is. And one little hidden thing I can point out is if you take those escalators down, maybe I can showcase it from here, but if you take the escalators down, you can go down an underground tunnel that goes underneath State Street here. Because you can't cross State Street here like in the middle of the street. If you take that tunnel, the tunnel goes somewhere like over there, and then once you get on the other end of that, there's a big Harmon's grocery store that you can enjoy. Hey, and there's that eagle we saw toward the beginning of the video too. So I think that will go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed what you saw. If you like this video, again, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time. Signing off from downtown Salt Lake City, Utah.